Today we're talking about slopes. The learning goal is that I can use the slope to determine if two lines are parallel to each other, perpendicular to each other, or neither parallel nor perpendicular to each other. The standard is still GC01. We've been working on that for a couple weeks now. So you can determine the slope of a line by finding any 2 points on that line and applying the formula. And the formula is not a new formula to you. You have used this multiple times. So it's that slope, which is the m means slope, is equal to your change in your y over your change in your x. And we, of course, I always have my own way of doing things. And so slope is equal to m, which is equal to your change in your y over your change in your x. And we prefer to look at division using fractions instead of division symbols. Okay, so again, this is just y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so when you have two ordered pairs, and we've been working with ordered pairs, it's pretty easy to find your slope. Okay, and I like to use the rule of stack and subtract. So if I have any two ordered pairs, it doesn't matter what they are. Let's just say I've got the ordered pair of 3, -8. Sorry about that. 3, -8, and 6, 4. Okay, so I would ask you to stack these on top of each other, just like I have. And when you do that, you don't have to worry so much about which one is x2 or x1 or y2 and y1. You can simply just subtract. Okay, so if you stack them on top of each other, and then I call it stack and subtract, we will subtract, and you're going to subtract your y values first. So you're going to have that slope is equal to -8 minus 4 divided by, and then we look at our x values, 3 minus 6. And we're just subtracting in the same order. That's what's important. Okay, so if we continue here, we've got -8 minus 4 is -12, and we have 3 minus 6 is -3, and then we've got -12 divided by -3 is a +4. So our slope is a +4. Well, what does slope mean? Well, slope means the steepness of the line. So the line that contains these two ordered pairs, and if we just make a quick graph here, like we know that 3, -8 is going to be at 3, -8, so it's down here at 3, -8, and 6, 4 is going to be up here, 6, 4. And if we connected these two lines, we see that it's increasing from left to right. And so when a slope is increasing from left to right, we call that a positive slope. Okay, so that's in page number 3. Slopes can be positive when they increase from left to right. So when we have a line that goes this way on the graph, we know this is a positive slope. Okay, makes sense, right? We've got a positive number. That means that to get from any 2 points, if we're going from this point to this point, we're going to go up and to the right. And when we talk about up, we know that's a positive number, and to the right is also a positive number. So when we've got our change in our y over our change in our x, we know that we're going from a positive and a positive, and a positive divided by a positive is simply a positive number. Okay, what if we had another ordered pair? Let's pick the ordered pair 2, 6 and 5, -2. Okay, so if we're looking at a Cartesian plane, 2, 6 would be somewhere over here, 5, -2 would be somewhere down here, and if we connected these, we're decreasing from left to right. Okay, so because we know we're decreasing from left to right, it stands to reason that our slope should be negative, right? It's falling from left to right. Okay, so again, stack and subtract. So if I subtract my y values from each other, I've got 6 minus a -2 divided by Now I'm going to subtract my x values from each other. 2 minus 5. 6 minus a negative 2, these two negatives make a positive, so I really have 6 plus 2, which is 8. 2 minus 5 is negative 3. A positive divided by a negative is simply a negative. So my answer for my slope is negative 8/3. Well, what that means is that to get from this point right here to this point down here, I'm going to have to go down 8 units and to the right 3 units. Okay, so I have a negative slope because I'm going down. And remember, down means negative. We're going in a negative direction. Okay, so slopes can also be negative when they decrease from left to right. So if we have a line that's falling from left to right, we've got a negative slope because we're going to go down. So we've got, when our change in our y, we're moving in the negative direction, and then we'll move in a positive direction here for our change in x. And so a negative number divided by a positive number is a negative number. Okay, slopes can be undefined. So anytime you have a vertical line, okay, a vertical line, if we've got a Cartesian plane, a vertical line means that it's here or here or here. It means that it is parallel to the y-axis. We always have a slope that's undefined, and vertical lines always have the equation of x equals some number. Okay, so x equals 2. That's going to have, we're going to go through 2, and it's going to be a line that looks like this. Okay, so this is the equation of x equals 2, where this is your x-axis and this is your y-axis. Okay, slopes can also equal 0. That's going to be horizontal lines. Okay, because slopes mean a change in our x-axis, or a change in our y divided by change in our x. If you have a 0 slope, that means there's no change in your y values. Okay, so a horizontal line means that you're not increasing from left to right and you're not decreasing from left to right. You're remaining constant. And that's going to give you a 0 in your numerator. And you can have a 0 in your numerator, you just can't have a 0 in your denominator. Okay, so it doesn't matter here. 0 divided by any number, it doesn't matter what number it is, will always be 0. So your slope is going to always equal 0 for horizontal lines. Now, horizontal lines follow the equation of y equals something. So this line here, let's color it in a different color. This line right here would be something like y equals 3, because we could say that this is 3 units up from our origin of 0, 0. Okay, this line down here, we might say, would be y equals -2, because it could be going through this ordered pair here of 0, -2. Okay, so vertical lines have a slope that's undefined because you can't divide by 0. And when we think about that, our change in our y over change in our x, well, it's not moving. For the y, you can have some number, but your x, it's not moving from left to right at all, so that's where your 0 is. And whenever you divide by 0, you get undefined. Okay, so I didn't explain that, but that is why. Okay, so lines that are parallel to each other have the same slope. They have the same slope. Okay, so if you have 2 sets of ordered pairs and you want to know, are the lines that go through these ordered pairs parallel to each other, you just figure out the slope. But a lot of times you'll have the equation already given. So you can have the equation of y equals 2x plus 3, and this shouldn't be new to you, but this is called slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form. So that's of y equals mx plus b, where m is your slope and b is your y-intercept. Okay, so here my slope is 2. So any other line that has a slope of 2 is going to be parallel to this. Now, yes, it has to have a slope of 2, but the other thing would be that you need to have a different y-intercept, because if it was the same, then the line is not just parallel, but it would also be the same as. So you need a line that has a slope of 2 and a different y-intercept. So if we had these equations, y equals 2x plus 5, these two lines would be parallel to each other. Y equals 2x minus 8. These two lines would be parallel to each other. Y equals 2x plus 15. These two lines would be parallel to each other. And all of these would be parallel to each other. They're all parallel because they have the exact same slope. Okay, so lines that are parallel have the same slope. Lines that are perpendicular have slopes that are opposite reciprocals. Okay, so again, we got to know what opposite means, and you need to know what reciprocal means. Now, opposite means different sign. So if you have a slope that's positive to begin with, the opposite reciprocal would mean that you have a negative slope. Okay, now a reciprocal is not a new word to you, and we use it when we're talking about fractions. Now reciprocals would be like the reciprocal of 2/3 would be 3/2, and the reciprocal of 4/5 would be 5/4. It's where your numerator and denominator are switching places. Okay, so if you had a number of 4, remember, and you want to know what the reciprocal is of that, well, it would be 1/4. Because remember, any whole number or any integer can be written as a fraction simply by putting it over 1. Okay, so opposite reciprocals would mean that if you had a line that said y equals 2x plus 3, let's go with that one again, the opposite reciprocal of 2 would be negative 1/2. So any line that has a slope of negative 1/2 would be perpendicular to this line. Okay, so y equals negative 1/2 minus 5, that would be perpendicular to the line of y equals 2x plus 3. If you had y equals 2/3 x minus 5, a perpendicular line would be any line that has a slope of negative 3/2. These two lines would be perpendicular to each other. If you had y equals 7/8, negative 7/8 minus 8, we would say that any line that has a slope of positive 8/7, I better put an X right there, would be perpendicular. Okay, so all we're looking for right now are the slopes. Okay, perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocals as their slopes. Parallel lines have the exact same slope.